Hi guys, this is Barbara Beckman here. Today I'm going to show you a very quick video of a colored pencil portrait that I just did of my mom. And you can see her pictures up here on my Mac. And I do that because I can get more detail if I have her up on the screen. So I use a watercolor pencil and I just draw out quickly a little sketch of her. I try to get your proportions right because this can make or break your whole portrait. So I use the watercolor pencil because when I hit it with the solvent, the paint thinner, it just dissolves and you don't see the sketch lines. So the paint thinner I use is GAMSOL. I'm going to put a link to everything that I use below here. So if I talk too fast, I'm trying to cram a lot in. It's a 10-minute video, so I'll put a link to everything in the bottom here so you will not miss what I used. So I have 3 different pencils that I'm using today. I'm using the Caran D'Ache Luminance. I'm using the Faber Castell Polychromos, and I'm using the Prismacolors. So I started out about 30 years ago doing these portraits, and I started out using the Prismacolors. They are still one of my favorite pencils. I know there's a lot of controversy about which one's better and that the quality control has changed on these throughout the years. They do break. If I sharpen them with a pencil sharpener, electric one, they seem to break more, or if I drop it, it breaks, and sometimes as I'm using it, yes, it breaks. But they're still nice and thick and creamy, and I really love them. So I will still continue to use these. So I heard that the barrel wasn't centered right, and that's what the problem seems to be, is that the factory changed and the quality of the pencils is not as good as it was when I started out using them 30 years ago. But I'll still tell you, they have beautiful colors and they are still nice and creamy, and I still love them. So the Caran D'Ache pencils are wonderful too. They feel really nice in your hand. They're a little heavier weight. The barrel's a little bit bigger, and they come to a really nice point and they last. They don't break. I very rarely break a pencil, and they sharpen up well, both electric sharpener or your hand sharpener. I also find, let me just back up a minute, with the Polychromos, the Prismacolors, if you use a sharpener, like a little hand sharpener, and you stick your pencil inside the sharpener. Now, traditionally, like, you know, when you're a little kid and you're learning how to draw with your number 2 pencils, you put your pencil in the sharpener and you turn your pencil. Now, if you do that, they break, and that's not the proper way to sharpen a Prismacolor, and a lot of people don't know that. So you would take your pencil, put it into your sharpener, and you're actually going to turn your sharpener instead, and not your pencil. You're going to keep your pencil held straight and don't move it at all, and turn your sharpener until you get a point. I find that if you do it that way, it just lasts longer. They don't break. I don't have the problem. So I don't know, when I hear a lot of people complaining about them, I don't know if they're sharpening right. I'm not sure. So I can only speak for myself and my own experiences, but that's what I find, that they just hold up better if you sharpen them that way. The Faber Castell pencils are also wonderful. They're probably the size of the Prismacolor, and they come to a really, really hard point. I'm able to get those very, very sharp. Those are ones that I go to for like my eyes and when I'm doing like fine details. So if you're wondering what I'm using here, I'm thinning out the paint, and or the pigment rather, not the paint, the colored pencil, the pigment. And I'm using a product called GAMSOL. It's made by Beckmann, and it's an artist quality colorless blender, like an odorless paint thinner. So again, I'll link everything below, but this is my favorite because it's odorless. I do have asthma, and this one is recommended and used in all your art schools. So it's definitely studio safe, and it meets all the standards for being in a studio, teaching studio. So if they're using it with a bunch of students in there, I think that it's probably one of the best choices and the safest choices out there. So that's what I use. You just don't want to leave it in a little cup. I pour it into a tiny cup as I work from it. So you just don't want to leave that around, because if you have any animals or if your cat comes up and drinks from it, it is toxic and they will die from this. So you have to be very, very careful with it, just like any other chemical that you would be using. So I use the technique just like you would in oil painting. I started out oil painting when I was about 13 years old, and totally loved it, but I didn't like all the turpentines. Loved to do portraits. Portraits were always one of my favorite. So these pencils are a great way to incorporate my love for portraits without dragging out my oil paints all the time. But it's basically the same concept. If you can understand the basic general rule for oil painting, which is fat over lean, that's exactly what I apply here as I'm doing my portraits. So what is exactly fat over lean? Now, lean is your watered down or your thinner version of your paint. So you're starting out, if you can see here, I'm touching very, very lightly. This is like the first application of color that I'm putting on my mom's face here. And it's very, very thin. It's not a heavy, thick application. So now I'm going over here again, and I'm pressing a little bit harder, and you can see the color more on the paper here. So that's going to be my fat. So every time you add more pigment and thicker versions of it, that's your fat. So your fat goes over your lean. So you start out very light, thin pencil washes, like what I'm doing here with my mom's purpley kind of bluish shirt. It's very, very, very light, and you build up. It's a lot of building up of the layers. So it is tedious. It takes a long time. You just have to be patient. And if you get frustrated and it's not looking so great, because as you can see in my painting, it goes through stages that are absolutely horrible, that you look at and go, what, does she even know what she's doing? This is ridiculous. So when you get to that point, just put it aside and come back, especially if you're learning, because it will go through really horrible stages. I think all paintings do, at least mine do. I teach a lot of paint and sip classes around New York, and I tell all my students, like, I can see the look of terror on their face, and I'm like, I really do know what I'm doing. Just like bear with me, because it's going to look really, really bad before it looks really, really good. So that's one thing I just want to say. If you're learning this and it's new to you, don't give up. Just keep coming back to it. Put it aside. It could be in its really horrible stage, and you can come back and just, you'll see it with fresher eyes, and you'll be able to give it another view and another interpretation of maybe what you should do or what's needed to be done. So just don't give up, and layer lots of layers, and just have patience. This took me 6 hours in real time to paint from beginning to end. So it's not something I sat down with and sketched out. So the video here I have edited, so you're not seeing a lot of it because it would just be very, very boring, because this took forever. And it's edited, and it's also sped up at 8 times its speed, just to show you and to give you an idea of how I do them, what I'm doing. And originally, when I started offering portraits for my business, I was doing them in oils, and then I started doing them in acrylics too, because you can achieve things in acrylics. You just need to keep your palette more wet. So I'm always spraying them to achieve a very similar look to oils. But then I really started to play around with my pencils and forgot how much I loved the colored pencil. So the colored pencils are what I always recommend when people hire me to do portraits for them. If it's just like, you know, a face and it's a 9x12, I can easily talk them into these, because they see my other work and they're like, it's, you know, it's beautiful. It looks just like them. And it's not, you know, paint, but it is really paint, because these aren't oil-based products. So I'm using paint thinner to thin them out just like I would my oils, and it is an oil product, so it does have an appearance of paint. And you do use your paintbrush. As you can see here, this is my first step. So I'm doing a light pencil application, and then I'm coming across with another color, because you can blend with these as well. So I've blended a black with a like turquoisey color, because I wanted it to match my dad's portrait that I did of him last year, and there was like a dark turquoisey color background, and I thought that it would really look nice if I matched them together. So you can blend, and you can go over these and over these until you achieve the look that you want. So there's 2 applications here of pencil in the background, and then I'm taking some of the GAMSOL, my odorless paint thinner that I just told you about, and I'm going over it and I'm thinning it down, and I'm pushing all out the paint, and see how it looks already smoother. It kind of takes away all those textured lines. So I let it dry. I go on to the other side. I let it dry, and I'll do this several times. So you can still see it almost looks like scratchy crayons in the back if you look to the right side. So on the left side that I'm working on now, that I'm showing you, you can see it looks much better, because now this is like my 3rd, maybe my 4th application of color. So it is tedious. It's a lot of work, and as I go over it, I get heavier. So I'm burnishing the paper here. So that's your fat over your lean. So my lean is underneath. It's my first couple applications. And now my fat, which is my heavier hand, my burnishing, is going on top of that. And that's what's able to create that solid kind of look in the background there. So it's not so sketchy looking. So she was a lot of fun to paint. I miss her dearly. She passed away several years ago. My dad passed away before her, and I did his portrait first. And I knew she needed to be right up there on the wall with him. So it's January and New Year and new beginning, and I wanted to add her to my portrait collection. So this is one of my own that I will treasure, and I had a lot of fun spending the day with her today as I created her, and just reflection on who she was and how she made me laugh, and you know, what kind of mom she was and what she taught me. And it was just a nice afternoon today here in New York. It was a sunny day. There was no school because it snowed all morning, and the sun came out. It was just a beautiful day to do this. So this is a tribute to my mom. I hope she's smiling, looking down on me. And I hope you give this a try. And it's a lot of fun. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave a question for me or email me. My information is down below. I'll be happy to answer anything. And just keep trying. It's just a process of learning, and your skills will get better over time, and you'll be able to create wonderful, beautiful portraits. So thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I'd love to keep in touch with people. Leave a comment so I can get to know you, or to hear maybe what you'd like to see me do. This was just a quick one today. It was a personal one, but I wanted to just share it anyway with you. I do a lot of different things, from paper piecing to jelly printing to acrylics to oils to these colored pencils. I dabble in a lot of things. So if you're interested in like a crafty channel that's got a lot of different art on it, this is a channel for you. You'll definitely see a lot of different things here. So thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I appreciate your time, and thank you so much. Bye now.